Welcome back to the channel, you guys. I hope you're having an awesome day today. For this week's video, what we're going to do is check out 3 different Telecasters from 3 different series made in 3 different countries. Let's get started. So the teles we're going to check out today are behind me on the wall. We've got one made in Mexico, one made in Japan, and one in the good old USA. So if you guys know Fender at all, you know they make series and sub-series and special editions and limited runs and artist editions and super vintage and ultra modern versions of Telecasters. They pump out so many guitars, it's nearly impossible to encapsulate that in one video. So because of that, it's nearly impossible for me to say, this is a Mexican-made Telecaster, this is what Mexican-made Telecasters sound like, just because there's 20 different editions of Mexican-made Telecasters. So what I'm gonna do is pick some of my favorite, show you guys some of the main features, and of course do an audio comparison. All right, let's not pull any punches. Let's start things off with a bang. This is one of the best Telecasters ever made. A bold statement, I know, because this is made in Mexico. This is the Baja Telecaster. So what exactly makes the Baja Telecaster so special? Well, for me, it's the perfect marriage of vintage and modern. Now, when you look at the guitar, you're like, well, Daryl, it sure looks vintage and not so modern. And of course, you'd be right. We've got split head vintage tuning machines. We've got a big old fat 52 neck. So if you're a fan of chunky necks, the Baja Tele is one to check out for sure. 21 frets, another vintage feature, butterscotch ash body, which is correct for the period for like a 50s Tele, brass saddles, ashtray bridge, broadcaster pickup, all of those things scream 50s Tele. Now, as for the modern features, this guitar has a 9.5-inch radius, which makes playing on the neck very comfortable, but most of the modern features happen within the electronics. So we've got a 4-way Telecaster switch from the factory, really cool stuff. And what it does is it enables you to have both pickups on in series, which is more of a humbucker type sound. So really not a sound that most people would associate with a Telecaster, which is really cool and makes it very versatile. And the second thing is hidden within the volume knob here is your S1 switch. So I really love the way Fender did that. No extra toggle or button or anything else. Just keeps the pure vintage look really subtle, and if you're not looking for it, you would hardly notice it. And what that does is it gives you 2 extra out-of-phase sounds. Next up, and representing Japan, is the Fender Midnight Tele. Now, whereas the Baja Telecaster is pretty much a straight 50s reissue, the Midnight Tele here is a 60s reissue. Now, what really drew me to this guitar were the aesthetics. You give me a black and gold Telecaster with a double bound body and a matching headstock, just try to keep me away from this guitar. Now, on the American guitars, Fender's kind of walking back a little bit from offering straight vintage features on the reissue guitars. So the American Original series, which replaces the old American Vintage, gives the player a few more modern features while still giving them a vintage experience. So I actually like that. The guitars are a little bit more playable, but still have that vintage vibe. Now, if you want a true reissue, the guitars out of Japan still offer that. So on the Midnight 60s reissue Tele, we've got an alder body, vintage correct hardware, vintage voiced single coil pickups, whatever that means, rosewood fingerboard, which is obviously a huge hallmark of 60s guitars, and a maple neck, a little bit slimmer than the Baja. And representing the good old USA, we've got our American Standard Telecaster, which has been my go-to Tele for many years. So this Tele has an alder body, 6 individual saddles instead of the 3 barrels, and of course we don't have the ashtray bridge, it's just a flat bridge. Great sounding Alnico pickups, one of my favorite for sure. Maple neck, skunk stripe on the back, Fender Standard tuning machines, which would be considered modern up against the other 2 guitars, but just Fender Standard tuning machines work great. This one does have one trick up its sleeve. It also has a 4-way switch. So I did a whole video on this one, but I'll link to the switch in the video description below if you guys are interested. It's the Obsidian wire 4-way Telecaster switch. So I'm actually pretty curious to see what this 4-way switch is going to sound like up against the Baja. All right, so let's get on to the fun stuff. Let's do our tone comparison. So we're going to be using the Blue Angel amp, mic'd up with the Sennheiser E906 mic and the Earthworks SR25. We'll go through a bunch of different sounds for you guys. Let's check it out. All right, you guys, now to keep things a little interesting, what we're going to do is take our two Telecasters that can go into series or in position 4, and we're going to compare them up against a Les Paul. So we're going to do this as a blind test. I'm going to give you 3 really short audio clips, and what you guys have to do is try to figure out which one is the Les Paul. So clearly the Telecasters don't sound like a Les Paul, but that 4th position switch is really usable. It's a great sound and a really great addition to any Telecaster. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. Guitar number 1 was the American Standard Telecaster, then the Les Paul, and then the third one was the Baja Telecaster, which you could tell had less gain and more brightness than either, obviously, the Les Paul or the American Standard. Okay, let's throw these guitars into a mix and see how they sit with other instruments. So we're going to play with a backing track, just about a minute. So we're going to give each guitar, I don't know, roughly about 20 seconds to solo. Let's see how that sounds. So here's my final thoughts on these 3 Teles. First of all, let's start with the Baja. The good is it's super versatile, a ton of sounds on tap, and it really gives you that traditional Tele twang. This I found to be the brightest of the 3 guitars. So if you want that typical kind of like, cutting, bite, growl, this is a great guitar. And the addition of the 4-way switch is awesome because it does warm it up a little bit. So it gives it a little bit more versatility. Now, construction-wise, very good. I don't feel like I'm compromising coming from the American Standard down in quotes, to the Baja. The construction's just perfect. I don't feel like I'm compromising in any way. Beautiful guitar. Now, the one downside is the fingerboard edges are super sharp. That's one thing I do notice between, the American Standard and this one. Not the fret ends, but just the fingerboard itself, very sharp. No rolled edges, which, does affect the feel a little bit. Now, as for the Midnight 60s Telecaster, it's coming out of Japan. There's not a flaw on it. Like my other Japanese guitars, I find the build quality and overall quality control to be absolutely excellent. So it's a great playing experience. Now this one is more vintage correct. So 7 1/4 inch radius means it's quite round and small frets. So the playing experience I find not as good on this one, although it's set up great. It's just the function of the instrument. It's a vintage style instrument. So it plays differently, but overall quality control great. I find the biggest disparity between pickups on this guitar. So I find this is one of my favorite bridge pickups of the 3, I think. It's a good compromise, not as hot as the American Standard, but still tons of grunt. And on that first clip, when I played on the bridge, I think that was my favorite sound out of this guitar. And the neck pickup is probably the warmest too. So, there's a big difference between the bridge and the neck on this one. I could do some adjusting with heights maybe to balance it a bit better, but overall, beautiful build quality, love the aesthetics, and the tones are awesome. Now, as for the American Standard, there's a reason why it's my go-to Tele. Great tones in all positions, really comfortable to play. It's broken in by almost 20 years, so it's not a new guitar. The neck is just super comfortable. Like I mentioned on the Baja, nice rolled edges on this one. The gloss is kind of worn down to a satin. There's all sorts of chips on it and stuff. So I am like emotionally bonded to this guitar, but even when I listen back to all the clips, I think this is my favorite Tele. So one of the biggest takeaways for me after doing this comparison is I didn't feel like I was in a tiered experience where it's like, oh, now I'm playing the Mexican, I can't wait to play the Japanese, and then I can't wait to play the American or whatever. It didn't feel like that. It just felt like all three were amazing guitars with different neck profiles, slightly different sounds. I mean, they all sound like Telecasters, but they all had their own slight flavor, and I didn't feel like one experience was way better than the other. So if you're looking for a great Telecaster, my pick would be the Baja Telecaster. And if you don't like the 52 aesthetics, you can certainly get it in Sunburst and I think in black as well. The only caveat would be it does have a chunky neck, which is not for everybody. But the features, the tones, it gives you all the classic tones plus a bunch of variety. So this one is an easy pick if you're a new player looking for a Tele. Thanks so much for watching. I've wanted to put this video together for a long time, so it feels great to put it together and get it out to you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Have an awesome week, you guys. Take care.